The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Riv. And again, we have a new venue here. This is live television, and they're working diligently at getting that our studio all set up.
We got flooded out again.
And we had a little leak again, but we have a ton of stuff. We had some big news on this show today. So
yeah, well, what's interesting is last night I called you right after. There was a shooting in Fall River on Tuttle and Dwelly Streets.
Yep.
And then after that shooting, I found out that it was an attempted murder.
That's the allegation.
That's what the allegations currently are. And the police department actually caught the alleged perpetrators. Why? Because they went back to the scene of the crime.
Which is normal for dumb criminals. That's what they do. They always return to the scene of the crime to admire their work or something like this. But it is what it is. But, again, shots fired, an attempted murder. And isn't it ironic that on yesterday's evening news, I saw a whole television excerpt about shots fired in Providence.
Yeah.
But it's become so routine in Fall River.
We don't even talk about it.
Right. Basically. And we have to. That segues into some of the bombshell news we received last night. Yeah. Well, but let's set the stage for this. We had a couple shows about the police and their manpower, and the mayor pretending that he was totally unaware of this stuff. And him and Linda oh yeah, well, we're going to talk to the police chief, and it's like it's 3 years, 3 police chiefs, 3 years at number one in crime, and our mayor seems to be totally absent, and he's pretending that he doesn't know about it. But now we have proof, basically, that this is not accurate. Paul has become Paul the prevaricator, and we have gotten this news, and
we have permission to use it
from the source. We have the permission. This is what the first text we received says. I offered to Coogan on several occasions advice to offer incentives to draw lateral transfers from other departments using ARPA funding because we could. A line called crime prevention, which ARPA allows. Coogan's response was, quote, the union will never go for it, unquote. So that's the beginning. So right off the bat, what does that set up? It sets up that he knew it.
Right,
he knew this a while ago.
And what's interesting about this is, and I told you this last night, Providence is doing this right now. They're doing these lateral transfers from other departments. This way they don't have to train them again because they're already trained. Yeah. They're paying them money to, bonus money to transfer over to the Providence Police Department. So the idea that was put here was a good idea. Yeah. And that would have solved our manning issues. But
it's absolutely ridiculous because, number one, as you said, lateral transfers have already attended the police academy. They are trained police, or they can be put right in the street. They don't have to ride with somebody, and it's immediate. Their impact is immediate on the safety of the city of Fall River. So right off the bat, we have a serious issue here. And Coogan's response is unions will never go for it. For that, sorry, I'm reading a quote. It's going to be accurate. The unions will never go for that. That's the quote that we have. I don't believe that because the unions were just in front of the council complaining. But what does this again reveal? That we could never absolutely get exactly what happened during that exchange between this individual, and we can name him because he's I guess so. Yeah. Christopher Peckham, former city councilor, former member of the ARPA committee, and we know that Chris stood up for the people when he was on that committee, and he was always complaining about the lack of transparency. Right. Again, we know why Paul wants to do everything behind closed doors. We don't know what happened with the Malone issue. We don't know what happened with any issue, the John Perry issue.
Nope.
And now we don't know what happens at these ARPA meetings. And this is really damning that the mayor of the city of Fall River, and I don't care if it worked or it didn't work, you got to try something. Obviously, we have been #1 in crime for 3 years. We have had 3 different police chiefs, and this city councilor gave him an idea, which, as you said, many communities are using. They're trying to get lateral slides because, people don't understand it. When you get police on the job, it takes a long time to get them on the street. They have to go to the police academy and pay for it, by the way, which is another issue we brought up at the last thing in our city. And then they have to, even when they're put on the street, obviously they need. Oh, I'm getting it. Don't worry. But the issue is that we understand it. It takes some time before they can be left, themselves out on the street. And lateral transfers, you don't have that. It's just like when we sent firefighters, when we had the layoffs, because the state allows them officially to laterally transfer without they can, if they go by seniority, whatever vacancy becomes available, they go into in whatever fire departments that are available. They don't have to go to the academy, go right on the trucks because they're trained, just like these police officers. They're working police officers, and they can go right in. And then what's more concerning is that this wasn't even mentioned at all. And, this speaks to, and we have another one that says here, it says, do you have permission if we share this with Spindle City Straight Talk? And the response to that, of course. They may also use my name as well. So, and then we received some more damning texts. Oh, the police idea. Chief Cardozo was in agreement. Also, I spoke to him at least twice about it. Paul, did you ever speak to Chief Cardozo? You're going to tell me the chief didn't have a way of putting men on and he didn't tell you? That's absurd. It looks like Paul Coogan is lying about this. He's trying to look for cover and said, well, I don't know. But that's not even an excuse because the fact that when you're the mayor of the city, in a city that has one of the highest crime rates, if not the highest, whether that's out for debate or not, 3 years in a row, and you're not looking for every possible way to make the people of this city safe. And then he goes on with another text, which does on another issue. But let's.
Well, I like this because that other text addresses something that we've been talking about also on the show, which is the water department.
Yep.
Okay? And Michelle Dion, after Chris Peckham was no longer on the council, was saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. So here it says, Chris Peckham proposed at an ARPA meeting that we take an entire half of the ARPA funding and give it to the water department as Paul Ferlin could fix as many issues as possible. Coogan said no. That I know is on record. One of my last votes was for an appropriation from the mayor to Ferlin, and I voted no.
As I said, I needed more money, and it should have gotten the ARPA money. Now look at the water. That was the final comment. But look, again, here we go about the ARPA being behind closed doors. You don't think the citizens of Florida have been outraged when they found out their mayor refused to use money to reduce one of their bills?
And, the worst part about it is this ARPA money was specifically for infrastructure issues.
Yes.
Okay? And this mayor is using it for everything but infrastructure issues. And we don't know what he's using it for because every time you ask for documentation on where the money's being spent, it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
You got to go to this one, go to that one, go to this, and you never get an accurate count. And in all reality, the person who's controlling the ARPA funds is Ken Fiola. Why, I don't know, but we've got a pretty good idea about that. We've got a pretty good idea.
But again, as you said, this is the Paul Coogan. You remember what he ran on? He ran on, I'm not Jason Correa and I haven't stolen anything. That's what he ran on.
Right.
That was his platform, not any plan to fix the city, make it better. And he ran on that. I'm not Jason Correa and I haven't stolen anything. and I'm going to be transparent.
Right.
And I'm going to stabilize the city. Well, number one, stabilizing the city was not necessary because he took the city over from Cliff Ponte, who was acting mayor, and during his tenure, you have to give him credit, for credit is due. The first thing when he got into office, he fired Joe Camara's brother, who was in the center of this court case and in controversy. And he did stabilize the city.
Right.
And it is, he took over a city that was already on a glide path, and it wasn't in an uproar because of Jazel. So that was, again, a something he used for his own political traction.
But also remember, when Cliff took over, the city wasn't in a bad condition, because as bad as Jazel was corruption-wise,
financially,
financially, the city was in a good position, okay, and Jazel did a really good job on managing the city financially. Now, on the other side of the fence, he did a good job on lining his pockets financially.
Yeah,
so.
but hence the comment by Sean Kadim at the city council meeting when he was frustrated with our mayor and his lack of transparency, when he said Jazel Correa was a much better administrator than Paul Coogan is.
Right.
And this is the key. But everything in his entire administration for 3 years has been behind closed doors. And this is the problem, because he meets with his banker friends, his lawyer friends, his developer friends, and all his rich friends, and they determine how they use everything. All the money goes to them. Yeah, we don't see it. Now, if we would have seen these debates live, you don't think there would have been an outcry from the city when he said we don't want to try to get police laterally transferred over? You don't think when he categorically refused to dedicate money to help the people keep some money in their pocket, there wouldn't have been a massive outrage? This is the problem. The problem is we have a mayor that has a very small cabal that he deals with, and he's the puppet for that cabal, and everything he does is for their benefit.
Right.
Everything he does is for their benefit. And while we're kind of on this, why is it? But what we have some information that even the 3A, the law, where they have total, and we know they've been coveting that waterfront for a very, very long time. But the irony of this is that section of the waterfront where they have absolute authority to do anything they want and develop it any way they want, that Newton doesn't want, Rockport's suing, and another little town up on the 5,000, remember that?
Right.
That they're suing because they think it's unconstitutional. You have to be able to develop your own city. But don't you think that it's ironic? We have been, some of our sources have given us an allegation that, ironically enough, one of the train stops on the way to Fall River that isn't in Fall River has made sure that when they laid that track, there's going to be virtually no impact with that
Correct.
3A. Yet, when it comes to Fall River, there will be a massive impact
Exactly.
with 3A.
Because remember, we've got 15 to 19 acres of land that is going to come available along the Duval corridor, as they call
And
it.
where is the Duval corridor? Along the
the
waterfront.
Exactly.
There we go, on the waterfront.
Right.
This guy, I got to text him. Go ahead, C.
And it makes for an interesting time, because Mike Roderick said about that land that the state is going to get top dollar for it. And if they get top dollar for that land, that's going to be wonderful. But we know that that's not going to happen. We know that some developer is going to come along and give $5,000, and lo and behold, they're going to get the land. Why? Because they pay $500 for a school in Fall River. If this is going to truly be, as Mike Roderick said, top dollar, then get market, I'm going to use that term, market rate, get market rate prices for that land. Don't give it away at a premium of $500. Give it away at $50, $100, $150, $200,000, because that's going to be prime land for development, whether it be for housing, whether it be for businesses, offices, medical units, whatever it may be. It's going to be prime land, prime development land, and giving it away is just robbing the people of Fall River and robbing the people of the Commonwealth what they are due.
And it's, you know, it smacks of political patronage, and
Yeah.
it always has. We can go back to previous administrations that sold land when they knew developers were coming in and going to be paying top dollar to individuals for $500 or $1. In the case of Shores and
Yep.
Stop and Shop, we all remember that stuff. This can't go on. This city, and I'm going to use the term, and I have to refer to this now, the average people in Fall River.
Yep.
And I know we've got some people going, don't call them average, call them regular. Well, this label stuff, I don't like labels. The reason I use average, I will explain it to you. See, if you say regular, who wants to be considered regular? Some people think they're irregular or they're superior. The reality is that's a term subject to interpretation. I use average because the statistics that we use say
Average.
that the average per capita income in the city of Fall River is this, the average household income in it. So when I say average, I don't mean the people are average. What we see is how this community fits as far as their wages and their per capita income and their household incomes compared to other communities of our size in this state. We know that our per capita income, average per capita income, it's an average, and it says it on the U.S. Census Bureau, it shows that we are far below. Actually, household income is almost double the average household income in Massachusetts, and as is the per capita. What is that an indicator of? It's an indicator that the population in this city is poorer than the rest of the state. So obviously we will need more attention to things that help them pay their bills, especially in this inflation. So I hope that satisfies you. I'm not going to use regular, because if we classified everybody, we'd have to have incomes from $10,000 to $14,000,
Right.
$14,000, $18,000. What we
Like the
use,
federal government
what we
uses.
use is the average, and the average means that the majority of people in Fall River, because obviously, when we say the average per capita is 26,000 or 28,000 or whatever. It used to be 26, it used to be 24, it may be up to 27 or 28 now. We don't know. But what that says is that there's a range. There are people making a lot of money and people making far less. Actually, I had a stat years ago, and it was horrifying. The percentage of people in Fall River that are living on less than $14,000 a year.
And
That is horrifying.
And you know from working with retirees
Yeah.
that there are a lot of retirees who have given their life to this city, and they're living on less than $25,000 a year.
60%.
And they have to decide whether to buy food or medicine, or pay their rent, or pay their mortgage, or pay their taxes.
And the moral of this story is, so we like to make you understand, I don't want anybody to be offended. We are not calling people average. We're using the average to show. Just like if you look at those averages and you interpret that to analyze, why is the per capita income in the city of Fall River, stayed in the 20s, around the mid-20s for the last decade, while the household income has gone from the 30s into the 40s, now it's in the high 40s, it's because the rich people have gotten richer.
Right.
The poor people have actually not done very well because they've stayed in that per capita income level. Now it means that a few people are making a lot of money. This is the key. This is the key because Paul Coogan's administration only cares about the people that are in the top of the food chain, the haves, not the have-nots. And how little you have is in that average. Some people have far less than others, but really this city is not an affluent city. We're not Newton. We're never going to be Newton. We're not Cambridge. Fall River, New Bedford, Lawrence, Lowell, these communities are blue-collar communities with high, but you have to try to, it's the mayor's job to take care of the people. And you told me if he's taking care of the people by not addressing the crime issue, by not addressing the water issue when he had a chance to do it,
Right.
that is inexcusable.
But here's the thing. As you said, 30 years we've been going through this. 30 years. And we've had some people on the city council for 30 years. For 30 years. What is that? They're supposed to be making a change. They're supposed to be working towards making a change at Fall River. But for 30 years, we haven't had a change. Leo's been on the council for almost 30 years, if not more. Linda's been on the council for almost 30 years, if not more. Okay? So where is the change coming from? It's not coming from our elected officials who are lining their own pockets in various ways, whether that be by votes they take so that they're not taxed or they're not feed or something along that line, but they're benefiting themselves. And this is the big problem. We have one city councilor right now that we know is not benefiting themselves. We have another city councilor that really doesn't care. We have another city councilor who's half in the bag.
Well, I just got a text, and I know people get irritated, but it is beneficial. And but it says we're not live on the air.
Yep.
Okay, we're not going live. So that individual who obviously is listening by some way or form, or is just saying I can't see it.
Right.
We will be on. We will
Shortly.
be on shortly, and we'll be on YouTube. So we apologize, but this is what we've got. At least we're doing a show, and thank you to everybody at BCC for making sure that we at least got this show in, because
It was an unforeseen death flood.
I mean, they could have just said the studio was closed. So we're doing the best we can, and that's it. But this is disturbing in many ways, because people have been complaining about we didn't know what was going on with Malone. We never know what's going on in Fall River, and now it's coming to light from a former city councilor that there were really productive suggestions to help the people of Fall River. And this is disturbing that our puppet mayor will just make statements like the union won't go. What do you mean the union won't go for it? You think the cops don't want people help on the street? I don't believe that. Bring the police union in. Was the police union ever consulted? He made that statement to a city councilor. You think he'd already asked the police? I don't think so, because that suggestion came up at that particular meeting.
Exactly.
For him to make that
Right.
statement, the union will never go for it. You show me a union that's dumb enough to take a position that we're complaining that we're understaffed, but we won't take staff. Please. Come on, Paul. You can tell you worked in the school department. You never worried about anything. I've been bargaining my whole life. I would never take a position like that. You think I would say, I want more firefighters on the trucks, but I won't take them because they're coming from another community? This is insane. The water bills, the problems. My water bill, your water bill went up even more, but my water bill went up like 25%.
Yeah.
And every time you open your bill, they're killing us, and Paul is fiddling without dealing with anything to generate income, to help keep money in our pockets. And now we got Diamond coming. We got the ARPA money running out at some point in time. We are facing what the MBTA is. We're going to go off a cliff in this community. And it seems that our mayor is not doing a damn thing about it.
And they're thinking that the MBTA is going to be the silver bullet, the grace of God is going to come down with the MBTA, and they're going to make it happen. That's not going to happen. The MBTA is not going to happen. And as a matter of fact, just look at what happened in Plymouth. They didn't have the ridership, and
Done.
bye-bye.
That's right.
And,
Bye-bye.
they'll probably give Fall River a year, plus or minus, to see what their ridership will be like. But they're going to have to decide, is it worth it? Is it worth it? And, you may have a city like New Bedford, which it is worth it. So maybe New Bedford will keep it, but Fall River won't. Mm-hmm. Maybe Fall River will keep it, New Bedford won't. We don't know. We know that Middleborough keeps it because they're pivotal. Everything comes through Middleborough.
Yeah.
So, and the people of Middleborough is another community that doesn't like that 3A thing.
Yeah, but look, let's face it. You just hit it on the head, CJ. They don't really care about the train. And remember, Senator Michael Roderick said, this is not the magic bullet. This is not the cure to everything. It's just a piece of a puzzle. He said that. Paul is trying to say that it's bringing, this train is going to bring chain restaurants, everything. Everything's going to be attached to the MBTA. You're going to see it coming down a track, towing a Golden Corral and a few other things. And but it's not going to happen. But the key is that we have, obviously, a situation where they wanted this because of what they can do with the development of land. Because Paul Coogan and his handlers, and I'm calling them handlers because they are his handlers, want to make money. They do not care one iota about the people of the city of Fall River, and this is disgraceful. And when he said he was going to run for a third term to elevate the city, and we see with the crime going on, schools at 335 in the state, and we find out things like this, that solutions have been given to him, or at least potential solutions by people,
and I don't take them.
And he walks away.
Right, and he doesn't take them.
And then he doesn't even talk about it.
Right.
It's disgraceful.
And let's look at some of these things. I mean, I received a text this morning from a property owner who reluctantly raised their rent. He had to raise the rent for his tenants. One of the tenants called the police to try to file a complaint because they raised the rent. And the police laughed at the guy, you know. I would have been like, I'm going to charge you with filing a nuisance complaint. But this is what's happening. And he raised the rent on a relatively large apartment to $780 a month.
That's cheap.
I mean, that's cheap for something that's 3 bedrooms, a double parlor, and everything else. $780 a month. I'm like, boy, yeah, I'd call the police on you too. But this is what's happening. People don't understand. That's how desperate some people are in Fall River. They can't afford $780 a month. You know, because they have children, they have family. It's tough, and they don't have jobs. Some of them don't have jobs, or they don't have jobs that pay enough. And that's the sad part about it. Now, I raised my rents because I have to pay my bills. My tenants didn't say, I'm calling the police. My tenants didn't complain about it. They said, nope, that's fine. Because they know what they have. If they go out in the market to look for it, it's going to be $1,800 to $2,100 a month. They don't want that. You know, they like what they have. They're getting a reasonable rent for a reasonable property. I raised the rent a small amount just to pay the water, the taxes, and the general maintenance. And that's great. And I have good tenants. They take good care of the property, so I'm not that concerned about it. But in the past 3 years, our rents have gone way up. This is under the Coogan administration. I'm not blaming it all on Paul. Don't get me wrong, because housing has been short.
You don't. I will. Okay.
Housing supplies have been short, and people are looking for places to live, and they can't find them. We have a huge homeless population, and they're working on taking some of these apartments for the homeless, and they're paying the rents on these, but that means we're paying the rents. And that's also to work on suppressing some of the rents.
Well, I will, because he doesn't have any consideration for affordable housing. So with that, we'll wrap up the show, CJ. But this is to be continued.
Definitely. We'll definitely talk some more about this on Wednesday. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. We'll see you Wednesday.
And thank you for helping us put this show on.